Fairway. You're on. Awesome. Thanks, David. Welcome, everybody. Sorry for the couple-minute delay in getting started. To those of you who are watching from the city website and home, and I'll make a comment about our tonight's meeting in a virtual world as well, but I'm going to call to order the June 18th Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting. This is an exciting moment to be back in City Hall. For me, it's been since December. For some of you, it's been since February, so we're glad to have you all here today and to have a quorum for our meeting. As a reminder for our folks who are attending the meeting via Zoom, there's a few guidelines for everyone. You're all muted and your videos are turned off by default to minimize any disruptions. If you'd like to make a comment during the public hearing portions of this meeting, please raise your hand by clicking on the icon labeled Participants at the bottom of your screen, and then click the button labeled Raise Hand. If you're calling into the meeting on a phone, you can raise your hand by pressing #9 on your keypad. And once our moderator calls your name, please unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone button on the bottom of your screen, or if you're on the phone, press *6. So again, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to respond. So we're glad to have you all participate in our meeting. Next item, we'll call roll. In attendance, myself, Jason.
Present.
Joey.
Present.
Sean Michael.
Present.
And away today is Esteban, Dave, and Phil. If we'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today we're joined by our distinguished city manager and assistant city manager, Stephen and Stacy. Glad to have you here helping us with our meeting, so thanks for that. And Thomas from our park staff, so appreciate you all being here to help us with our meeting. The next item 3 is approval of the meeting agenda. This is where you all put me back in the chairman's job in February while I wasn't here, so I appreciate that.
Right?
If there are no comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
A motion by Jason, a second.
A second.
Second by Sean Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so carried. The next item for today's meeting is public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the PRAB and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. Stacy, do we have any public comment today? Awesome, thank you.
Scott, approval of last minutes.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I skipped over an item. Yeah, item 4, approval of minutes from the February meeting. I need to come back to the agenda, Steve, I think. So let's go back to the approval of the minutes. How about if there's any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the minutes from the February 20th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joey.
I'll second.
And by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Steve, do we need to go back to the agenda? Or everything's okay with staff reports and
The only piece I'm going to ask, if you wouldn't mind deferring, is the Wall of Champions report, because that
Okay.
I don't have available.
Okay, so let's go back to item 3, and I'll we'll correct our approval of the meeting agenda and withdraw our previous approval, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda as amended to defer the Wall of Champions report.
So we're deferring till next.
Till next meeting, yeah.
Okay. And you
So
want
July.
a motion for that?
Yeah, motion.
Motion to defer the Wall of Champions report till next meeting.
Okay, motion by Joey,
I'll second.
second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. So we got the agenda for this meeting approved. Out of courtesy to our guest today, maybe we should move unfinished business first instead of our committee reports and jump right into Rush Adult Soccer.
I agree.
And let them come forward and jump on that business. We appreciate you guys being here today. Just remind you when you come up to speak to the board of name, address, and serial number and COVID status. No, I'm like,
That's very important.
Do you want the temp check too? My name's Neil McNabb. I'm with Rush Union Soccer. I actually live in Gwinnett County. Do you need the address? 2417 Sky Valley Drive, Decula, 30019.
great, thanks.
Yes, my name is Ryan Shaw. I'm actually a Forsyth County resident, 4830 Hamptons Club Drive. That's in Alpharetta, Georgia, 30004.
Great, thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Clicker is working. All right. Well, thank you very much for hearing us out tonight. We hopefully won't take too much of your time, but do certainly appreciate it. We'd originally hoped to come and meet in April, and something has been going on with the world since then. But we're grateful to be here now, and we appreciate your time. So just the stuff that we'd like to go through tonight, we're just going to do some brief introductions, talk a little bit about history of adult soccer in Milton, just touch on what we believe structure of a partnership outline could look like between Rush Union Soccer, the City of Milton, and the existing playing base of players. A little bit about that structure, logistics, fees, stuff like that, and then hopefully open it up to any Q&A. Our aim tonight was to at least create a dialogue with you guys and see what input you had for us. So just moving on to the introductions. I guess I'll go first since I'm already at the mic and holding the clicker, which is the ultimate power, right? So my name's Neil McNabb. I'm the executive director for Rush Union Soccer, which was formerly known as Georgia Rush Soccer. We just went through a rebranding and naming. I've been in youth soccer for almost 20 years. I was fortunate enough to play professionally. I've been coaching in Georgia for 15 years in the youth game. I actually sit on the board for Georgia Soccer. I'm a coach educator for US Soccer, and have been at the helm of Georgia Rush, now Rush Union, for about 7 months. And most of that's been taken up by COVID. So it's been an interesting journey so far. But heavily involved with soccer. I have 3 kids myself, and just love the game, love working with kids, played a lot. So the game of soccer is very passionate to me. And I'll let Ryan introduce himself. So thank you.
Yes, and I'm Ryan Shaw. I am of no affiliation with Rush Union. I am a soccer fanatic. I have been playing at the Cox Road location through its various ownership groups, from YMCA to Wall to UFA Milton, and then upon their sale, we're sitting looking what we can do. I've been in the state of Georgia since '96, started getting involved with with referees and coaching back in probably around '04, '05. Worked my way through Forsyth Fusion at the time, which then became UFA. And I was a referee assigner. I worked with Partner in Education program for Forsyth County, where we went into schools from elementary to middle to high. I helped the University of North Georgia begin their recreational soccer club there at the college. And I would then, after all that, I started working as a crime scene investigator at Gwinnett PD. Then I've now ventured off and done my own thing. I'm no longer with the PD. And upon that time, it was about 2012, 2013, I found this wonderful bar, Old Blind Dog, and I found this wonderful 11v11 league that played on Tuesday nights. This was right toward the tail end of YMCA, as I said. And we were able to become part of the wall-to-wall group, which was Jack and Andy. Used to run it, and I wound up playing for Old Blind Dog Soccer Club. It's a team that the pub has sponsored for over 10 years. I was playing under Martin Gladstone at the time. When Martin got sick, he actually asked me to take over the squad, manage the squad day to day. When UFA took over, they needed someone to help manage that and asked if anyone was interested in assisting them. So I began taking over doing the rules, doing the schedule, and doing the table, the weekly update every week. No charge. It was a passion. Soccer is a passion. And that's what we're looking at today. Reached out and spoke with Parks and Rec, then got in touch with Neil, trying to do a way that we could help everyone keep doing what they love and be able to help people around that may not have experienced soccer but may want to.
Thank you. So just a little bit touch on, a partnership outline, and really a partnership, in my view, is that everybody gets something out of it. And so being neighbors, Rush Union, and we're just down the road, we would like to be partners with local city. I think that's very important that we have a relationship and that we're not off on an island on our own complex doing things, but we have a relationship. And so that's what Rush Union would get out of this. The city of Milton, we know that there's certainly opportunities for revenue streams and also providing a service to the community. Currently, we've got a displaced adult group with no home to go to. And what Ryan would get out of this is the opportunity to continue to play and grow, right? The current adult program continuing to play and grow in that community. So in my mind, it could be quite simple. It would be a partnership between Rush Union and the city of Milton, and Ryan would fold into that, and obviously his leadership and guidance and community connections would help that program stabilize and hopefully grow. And that's what Rush Union is. We already have a variety of soccer programs. We're looking to continue to expand our horizon, but promote the game of soccer. And that's what we're here for. So that's the basic outline of what a partnership could look like. Just to let Ryan talk a little bit about the structure, the logistics as far as practices and stuff go.
Yeah, so at the last season we played ended the end of last year prior to the city taking over Cox Road. So at that time, we were running, and I want to give you good numbers here. We were running a Tuesday 11v11 league. Those rosters are about 15 players size. Some are up to 18. We'd have a Thursday 7v7 league. Again, those rosters were close to about 12. Could be as high as 15. They were playing currently at that time was Tuesday and Thursday, because they had an alternating day in between. So we had some players playing both. They were paying at that time $80 per player. But that was going through United Football Academy, so it was going through Georgia Soccer. It wasn't, how it was set up, the fee structure was that way. So we were looking at about 185 separate registered players at that time. That's not including dupes. That would have been myself and about at least 20 others. Like I said, the night off in between, but at this time going forward, of course, flexibility is key. And that's, I guess, a good start there.
Yeah. So Ryan touched a little bit about the fees and logistics, and we would provide the full registration process. We'd also be able to provide full lists of disclosure of who's registered in the league. Obviously, we've got to account for the out-of-city residents and whatnot. So we'd obviously be able to work with that, make sure that we're doing our due diligence, we're reporting that to the Parks and Rec division, and really would see it as we know there's other things going on at the facility. We'd be very flexible on days and times that work around those current youth structures. I think that's important. One of the caveats would be that we'd like to get access 2 evenings and them not to be back-to-back. So obviously, not all of us are in fantastic physical condition, and playing 2 days in a row is a lot of wear and tear on the body. So a day of rest in between is beneficial. But ideally, the adults would be out there as the kids are finishing the practices, right? Typically, the kids go earlier in the day, especially depending on the age group, finish earlier. They've got school the next day. The adults like to burn the candle at both ends, so we can go a little bit later. But we'd handle all the registration stuff, and then just want to talk a little bit about potential growth plan. I think having that relationship with the city gives us an opportunity to firstly celebrate that we're here and we exist. And the aim would be to grow from that grassroots marketing locally. So what we can do with Parks and Rec, supporting any community events and being present at those, and just putting that name out there that Rush Union has an adult program in the city of Milton, and try to get more folks involved and staying active. Obviously, the upside for us as an organization is good press out there, and marketing helps all of the programs that we offer, but that's more opportunities for the kids and adults, going hand in hand there. So we do believe that would help with email blasts, publications, whatever it looks like. We have a relationship with the Milton Neighbor currently. We're going to be putting some publications in there. Just, again, on the back of COVID right now, it's a good time to tell people what the benefits of youth sports and adult sports and getting folks out there in a responsible way. We've also got comprehensive return-to-play protocols. If we'd have met in August, we wouldn't have spoken about return-to-play protocols because none of us knew what those were. But now we have to talk about return-to-play. We've got comprehensive return-to-play protocols in place. We actually videoed staff implementing them and have shared that with our youth base, what it looks like so people can see it. But we've worked hard on that. We put a task force together actually in late April and went through that process. And obviously, given whatever the governor, state, county, city guidelines are, we'd feel very comfortable that we'd be able to continue to implement those necessary requirements as we kind of hopefully start this league and move forward safely, right? We want people to have fun, but also do it in a safe manner. So I think that was us. So appreciate your time and happy to field any questions that you may have about Rush Union, the current adult group, or
Super. Thanks, Neil and Ryan. Questions, team?
What's the season? I mean, are you going year round? Or do you do multiple seasons? Or
We would do year round, but we do break it up by season. Again, weather can be a fickle thing. We can have a great winter one year and have a terrible winter another. And with the city of Milton, they'd be deciding when we could play or could not play, of course, because Cox Road, grass field, rain, we're adults, we're heavy, we understand that. But perfect world, and we've done it before, we've run 4 separate seasons. There are times where we only get 3, but we get flexibility that way.
Gotcha.
And what time do you guys usually go out?
Again, we've been going with flexibility, but with the light ordinances, we had to be off at a certain time, and I believe we ran under 11 as UFA, but I believe for the city of Milton it's 10:30.
I think it might be 10:30.
So we'd adjust slightly, but the 11v11s take about an hour and 15 minutes, and we try to do some space between, so an hour and a half slots. At the time, we were doing 2 games a time, so we do a 7:30 and a 9. We could do an 8 and a 9:15 and still get in that time frame. On Thursdays, it's a lot more flexible. They're shorter games. It's 7v7, shorter field.
Yeah.
We were doing 8 and 9 just to give the adults as much time to get home, have dinner, put the kids to bed before they come play.
Tom, do you know if there was when the kids were leaving during the last season? Do you know, Jason?
typically 8.
8.
At Cox, I don't think they went past 8.
Yeah,
And I was never there with a team. How long does it take the kids to get out?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or there. I know at Bell, we went to 9 during the
Yeah.
spring.
I was just thinking of parking.
Oh, yeah.
Given the return to play and social distancing, we've already started to stagger certain event times to
Right.
allow for in and out too, so that we didn't have an overpopulated exposure on the crossover. So just note that we're now the new abnormal, was what I call it. It's not the new normal, but it's a strange times that we're very willing to figure out what that looks like and also work with those. The youth groups. Hopefully, those kids that are leaving the field, hopefully some of their parents are participating in the adult league. Right, that would be ideal.
Well, and I don't think it was every day. I think it was 2 days a week.
Over there?
Yeah, was it every day?
I think somebody was over there every day.
But not late every day. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But that's a thing that Tom, do you know?
As far as practices every week?
Yeah.
We have not gone every day at Cox Road to this point yet. So
There was plenty. And you're saying you would work with that time?
We'd want to be in the later time. The adults.
You'd work with the times with the youth programs. that are
Absolutely,
coming through.
yeah.
Because my only thought is parking, getting the kids out, and everyone else coming in.
We know. I'm not sure if you guys still have access to parking and behind that school or not, because we did in the past.
Yep.
So that release we're used to.
Yeah.
They used to run recreational practices and games there as well when UFA did own the property. It was probably less frequent than even you guys have, so I know there's still some of that to iron out.
I suspect as we come back online with our programming, Thomas, that there'll be facility-specific guidance that you guys will create for how the transitions work when Bell has got 2 different programs going on and who's coming in and who's coming off. I suspect that'll all get talked about as we get into the
Right.
new
There could be
abnormal.
adjustments to how many people are at each park. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, with it being such a new facility, we haven't even had and COVID, we haven't had a full season or beginning
Right.
of a season at any park this year. So that's something we're diving into.
Right.
So
Stacy?
we don't have that set schedule yet, but
Yeah.
Question come in, Stacy?
Oh, I was just going to ask the gentleman to speak to that.
Oh, yeah. John Michael, anything?
No, I mean, I guess as we were all just discussing, kind of open-ended. I was just wondering, since you said you do 2 days a week, is it depending on time frames and stuff, would it be possible to do, one of the 11v11s that are a longer game coupled with the 2 7 versus 7s, and then have another day where if there were practices or something like that, you would have, them be on the tail end of that, so it's not, if it gets backed up, I don't know how the lacrosse practices would look, but to be something like that, I mean.
Yeah, we definitely can adjust that. The hard part with doing a mixed Tuesday, Thursday, which at the time, it's just the way I remember them, 11v11 and 7, is if you do have overlap and if you have 8 teams in each league, there's a hard chance, that's 4 games, it's a hard chance of making sure you don't have that conflict if they play in both.
Okay. Right.
But again, if coming from a youth organization, that adult league that played at a youth organization, we are always second fiddle, and that's expected.
Right.
We don't bring in the most money. We don't have the most players. We just have that passion. We are used to being flexible. If it was a rain out on Monday and that's our league night and they reschedule games, we play on a Saturday morning and get them in. Yeah. Flexibility is always going to be a key when you're an adult player playing on a youth field.
No, that's good to hear. And I think that becomes a staff thing. You guys, if we get this approved or recommended.
Does lacrosse, I know we were just talking about, but how late does that normally go? Like, would they go to beyond 9, like the older groups, or?
No, nobody goes beyond 9.
No.
Any of the youth stuff doesn't go beyond 9.
Because I was going to say, if they're all hour games or
Yeah.
in that range, you could get it in from 9:15 to 10:30.
And I would
do it 4 days a week, right?
Yeah, and I would assume that just having not soccer but played in other adult sports leagues, Sunday night is typically a very doable option for adult leagues, right? That's one that youth programs don't use very often. I know Friday and Saturday aren't great, but
Or Sunday mornings.
and Sunday morning, some of those that are ones that we avoid on the youth side, and then the families that the adults.
I have a question, Ryan. You said you had 175 when you were last operating. Is that right?
85.
185 that was
185.
not duplicate players
Right.
between the two leagues.
So do you have any idea if you were an approved provider today, how that breaks down on residency issues around in or out?
Luckily, we had that discussion before. The residency numbers are quite low. For the, let's see where I write it down. I had 40 of that 185 are living, tax-paying city of Milton residents. I'm not one.
Yeah.
And I played twice. I helped run the league. We had sometimes where we had more, but we've never advertised at all.
Yeah.
And within city, and it is a recreational league, so we'd love to bring in. It's not just for ex-professional players to play it. We've had dads that coached their kids in rec ball and then decided they wanted to play with their kids when their kids got out of college. That had played out there. One that started the cycling club over here, started the team that I manage now.
Yep.
So that's what we'd like to see again. We haven't seen that since probably YMCA days.
Right. Great.
I think it's worth noting that if we don't have the league locally, then those 40 residents, even though we'd like that number to be larger on a residency side, those 40 residents are now driving outside of the city to find something somewhere.
Right.
And so I think we could work together to increase that number, but we also want to be able to provide something for them. And so, inviting folks in is also the economic impact that folks have when they come into our city, right? Adults like to go and maybe consume a beer or two after they've played in a game. So, get some food. So there's the economic impact to that, as well as they'd be paying out of city fees as well.
Right. Great. Any other questions?
So you're just looking at 2 days a week, really?
That's the current.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a good
That's
problem,
not a real issue.
got big, and then we'd revisit
Yeah.
again with staff. You'd figure out how to make it fit, right?
If they became a partner, they don't have to use Cox completely. If there's a scheduling issue, they could. Any field is
certainly there'd be an up. I mean, I leave that to
Yeah.
Thomas and Tom and Jim.
Well, I was just thinking,
There's
depending on the
capacity
season.
in other rectangle fields that
Right.
fit adults that the city controls. Nothing
Right.
prohibits you from.
Well, the reason I was saying that was because you're saying 2 days a week. It's a field with lights. If the boys did run long, we do have fields that, well, then that would affect you as well. So that's. Well, we'd have to move up, they'd have to move the time up at Birmingham Falls or something
Again,
like that.
that's a scheduling thing
That's a
that
scheduling
falls
thing.
to staff. That's, I'm going to not get in the
think
weeds
there's a-
on that.
there's a
Yay,
way-
staff.
There's definitely logistics that we would face, right?
Right.
But if there's a ton of rain and they're having to reschedule a bunch of stuff, then we're willing to work with that and find those right solutions. And I think that the next step would be for us as our Rush Union Adult League would to build those relationships with the youth groups, so that we're working together
Yep.
to accommodate, and that's again part of being that partnership and not just an outside renter or something like that. That we're here and we're in this together, and we can make the best of those types of circumstances.
How many, maybe you know off the top of your head or not, but just at Rush, how many, would you say are residents of Milton that go to there versus outside of it, just percentage-wise maybe? Because I was going to say, that would be, I would think would be one of the areas where you have a lot of those kids. I mean, that's a big program. Obviously, parents are going there very frequently, but if they didn't even know that there was an adult league offered, it may be able to drive it up, but I just didn't know percentage-wise.
I'd have to look at the current numbers, but I do know that this zip code is the highest represented zip code in our membership. I think it makes up, it's somewhere in the high 20s, low 30s as far as the percentage goes. And we draw from obviously all over.
All over, yeah.
What's the percentage of the cricket team? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
There's been a good discussion. If I guess the next step, Steve, would be for us to the vote would be for us to either recommend or disapprove or not recommend moving forward. Then I guess the next step would be for you guys all to go meet with Parks and Rec and start negotiating an agreement. And you're looking for our decision on whether we're going to endorse that or not.
We'd be looking for a recommendation from the board.
Yeah. So if you guys don't have any other questions, we could make a motion, decide how you want to move on this. I mean, it's a.
Would you say that motion? If we can work it out logistically with staff on field space.
Yeah, I think the motion
That's-
was something. I mean, we've got to. There is capacity. Does it all line up perfect? That's to staff to figure out.
is it
Our
more of
recommendation
the
is to
motion?
to recommend moving Georgia Rush to enter into a discussion with Parks and Rec Department to hammer out a partnership agreement.
Right.
And if we're in favor of that, then let's make that motion. If you're not, then we can table this discussion and have a separate discussion.
And we can, of course, bring back to the board if there are any issues or constraints related to time. I think we'll be better equipped to be able, once we have further conversations, if in fact the board is making that recommendation that we move forward looking into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I think this will come down with the meeting with the staff is just more around the maintenance of the field.
Absolutely.
Right? Just having additional bodies on there. Can we continue to maintain the field so that it's in good shape for everybody? Right? But that, again, comes down to there. But that would be my only concern. Otherwise, I think it's great. The more people are out doing stuff, the better. And so,
It's a good use of the asset to fill up a.
yep, exactly. And it's
Piece of land
it's
that we
3
bought.
hours that isn't, or those 2 or 3 hours that isn't being used. Again, just because it's grass, you don't want it to, those 3 hours, it does need some downtime, right? After the other kids are off it.
Do I hear a motion then?
Yes, I just don't know how to phrase it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll make a motion to recommend approval for further discussion with the Park and Rec staff on logistics and the fine
Contract.
details, I guess, really.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
Do I hear a
second.
Second. Jason's for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thanks for coming
Guys,
today.
thank you.
Good luck in your continued discussion, and we'll look forward to hearing back from you.
It's all out.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our unfinished business. Now we can move into committee reports where available. I don't have Esteban here. Thomas, do you have anything to tell us about baseball? I know I'm still on email distribution lists that I know they've started some activity related
I mean,
to the
I
summer
can
season.
I can kind
You're
of fill in
coach.
since I'm into that season as well. They started their All-Star programs. Actually, last weekend they had their first tournaments, and they were at wherever they go. Some are in over in Cummings, some are in Canton, some are all the way out in. We were all the way out in Cartersville. So they've been starting that. They did that. They had their evaluations, everything about 2 weeks ago. Did those teams, and then all the people that had registered for the spring season that wanted to play at this point or in the fall, they were offered credit or stuff. And I think they had their first practice last Saturday when the parks officially opened. And started games. My nephew, I think, had his first game on Monday and has another one tomorrow. So
awesome.
They're trying to do, I think, 2 a week and maybe one weekend game, or a weekend practice. So they're doing two games during the week and a weekend practice, I think. So they've I think have a bunch of teams at all the age levels right now. So
awesome. Good to hear. Thanks, Sean Michael. My lacrosse folks, Joey, Jason, you want to give us a brief update of where lacrosse stands today?
So where it stands, the spring obviously was done. I know all those folks on the boys' side refunded back the money. On the rec side, there was only one game, so it was pretty quick. It's not much there for in the summer in terms of that. I know on the girls' side, they had their camp last week, first week of camp. And then there's another one, so that went without a hitch because I know my daughter was there. So kind of slowing through the summer. And then from everything that's been told is that as of now, the fall is on as scheduled.
Yeah.
See what happens.
We'll see what happens.
And I think
just like going back to school.
Yes.
See what happens.
So the boys programs boys programs and some of the girls program, Cambridge refunded portions. They've done the first week of camp. They've started practicing. They're not doing contact. They're doing agility drills. We did try, because we're trying to cram in an entire season coming up. Oh, and I think kids that played in the spring got $100 off on the camp, so they did get some discount. But we've added a couple extra practices. Well, thankfully, we've gotten space at Rush Soccer. Actually, I don't think they were responsible for that, but we've gotten some space there and some at Midway Park to take up some of the teams.
Yep.
And the what do you call it? The fall leagues have just sent out registration. I think I saw boys.
I didn't see the boys. I haven't seen the girls yet.
Girls not yet, but I think I saw a boys thing come out, and it's moving slow.
Totally. So.
Slow.
Good.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you. Sean Michael, want to share with us a little football update?
Sure. The initial registration period ended, I guess it was last Sunday on the 13th. I believe that was Sunday. And they are continuing registration through the end of the month. But as it stands right now, they have 30 cheerleaders signed up, 166 players for flag, and 112 tackle with a 10-person waiting list for second, third, and fourth grade. So I think they have at least a team at every age level for tackle from second through fifth, with 2 and 5th. I believe they're going to have 2 and 4th. And that wait list, they're just trying to see if they can get a couple more and have another team or two at the other age groups there.
Do you know how those numbers are overall?
Overall, if I remember correctly, that's for tackle at least, that's pretty close to what it was a year ago.
What was the number?
I think they have 112.
Okay.
So there was three teams at the 5th grade level, 2 teams at the 4th grade level, one at 2nd and 3rd last year. So this year they'll have 2 and 5th, I believe 2 and 4th, and potentially 2 in one of the other groups, it sounds like. So right around, they may have lost a team. The main one really there that has just been, in my experience over the last 3 years, the Alpharetta teams are kind of just slowly disappearing. There's not a lot of registers from the Alpharetta feeder group area. They're just not So it's mostly Milton residents. So, yeah, I think that's just been kind of a steady decline on that side. And then the flag, I think that's about where they had it last year. It might, I know flag numbers are usually a little higher. And, it may just been people kind of waiting and seeing. So those numbers may spike up here before the end of the month. Or if the players that aren't playing tackle, they may go over to flag. So they'll probably end around, I would say, closer to 200 if I had to guess. I mean, they usually have a lot of flag players.
Great.
And they've also outlined their COVID strategy. I kind of forwarded that to the committee here. Just, on the kind of standards that they'll do. They're not going to do in-person fittings. They're going to, deep scrub every piece of equipment before they're given out. Stagger the practice times, all that kind of stuff that everybody else is doing. And, designate specific people that if on the team that are kind of responsible for point of contact on if someone is sick or does not feel well, that they relay that to them, and then it goes out to the entire group or whatever. So they're on top of it, and they're very hopeful that everything will kind of work out when we see in the fall.
Do you know when do they usually start? When are they looking to start?
This year, I believe there's a camp the week of July 21st, and then practices would start, I think, the following week. So July 26th, I think.
Great. Thanks, Sean Michael. We don't have Phil here for basketball. Thomas, we got any basketball update?
I know our camps are up and running at Mill Springs Academy. Success so far, and Kim is keeping it rolling with camps. We're hoping to, be able to get into our next season. But right now, we're solid with camps.
Awesome.
Now, I think he found some space somewhere, not in Milton, where they're running a tournament, too. I think they've got some.
Oh, is Halftime doing a tournament?
Yeah, I think. I need to look that up. I'm not for sure, but it does sound like they're doing well. But I have not talked to him. I'd rather hear from Phil, so I don't know.
Good. Dave's not here to talk about swim team, but there's not much to talk about swim team.
No
sadly.
swim team. They stuck with their decision to cancel for the season.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a shame.
The pool is up and running, and we're finding success in the pool, and it's, I think, from what I understand, as busy as it's ever been in the last couple seasons. So.
I bet.
Any issues with the bathroom? That was an issue before, right? With tennis, at least. There was something.
We have the the upgraded bathrooms
Upgraded.
there. There shouldn't be any issues, and if there are, I'm not aware of any.
Got it.
Okay. That leads us into tennis. Without Dave here, anything you want to share about tennis, Thomas?
Tennis has begun doing their thing as well as far as lessons. There is a few notes about tennis in one of the sheets I had given you. But yeah, open play, you can now rent your courts again. The reservations. And they're just kind of following the same socially distanced guidelines, that everybody is. As far as Alta and USTA, they're going to continue in a modified format, and that started on June 1st. I'm not very knowledgeable about that, but tennis is moving forward. So they are one of the fortunate sports that has got to start as well. So
yeah, good. I have nothing to add to arts programming at the moment, unless you've got something to backfill that with, Thomas.
We're
giving you a little heavy lifting your first meeting.
Yeah, we're still trying to push the online camps and the dance camps and some of the STEM stuff, but right now it's just not taking. We are getting some people signing up, but it typically is being refunded at this point. But everyone's trying, and we're hoping once they can actually get back and use Community Place and Bethwell. The people will come, because I'm certainly seeing the emails of these people that I do refund, and it's always regretful to inform you, and the kids are sure missing out and disappointed, but we're trying to stay afloat on that end.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. That'll close out committee reports. We have.
Let me just add one more thing.
Sure.
Cross. It doesn't need a big discussion. Just something we need to at some point talk about some other time when everyone's here with Jim, probably maybe just with staff, was losing balls on the sides, getting some nets out there. I know he's working on fencing. That's going to be a while. and budgeting for that. But just how have you had any issues with the boys over there?
Where at
We're losing balls.
Cox Road or
Got
where?
one net.
You're losing
It's very
your
small.
balls.
Yeah.
Road?
Cox Road, yeah. And just what can we do in the meantime, maybe to discussion to get, I know it wasn't in the budget. So we're just trying to figure that out.
Okay. We can take that
Yeah.
to staff and let them get creative with that. Great. We don't have any new business on the agenda. The next item, number 9, is staff reports, communications, and a update on Parks and Recreation COVID review. Stephen or Thomas, that's you're on deck.
We're going to do our best. Are you ready for us?
Yeah.
We'll look into the netting. I was just talking to Thomas here, and I know Jim and I have had that conversation. I just don't know where in the process we are.
Right.
So we'll, if that's becoming an issue, it's going to become a priority.
Right.
And we'll see where we are on it and see when we can get that done. And
Perfect.
We'll get back to the board on that if that's all right.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, the Milton soccer or practice field over off from Freemanville here.
Okay.
They have netting that they put up and then take down. There's holes and so they put it up during lacrosse season, and then those nets are gone because the band, I think, typically practices there in the fall, and those are pretty good. Again, I don't know the cost structure on that.
So they got a solution.
But I don't know who put it in, but that may be worth the question to ask, because that's a pretty good solution that they have there on that field.
Appreciate it.
As the high school practice field?
Yeah, right over on Freemanville.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're
bumps
talking
up to the baseball and soccer field there, and
Yeah,
there's
we're definitely exploring different options with netting, and the bigger you get, the more expensive. So
Yep.
definitely seek out some different options. If you'd like to bring any information to me, I can always.
I have
run
no
it up.
idea other than
I can see
seen
if
it
I can
and
find
gone,
out.
Go over there.
Yeah,
I don't know who did it.
Take
or-
it back to staff.
Yeah, I can find out. I'll try and find out.
Great.
look into it and.
That little field is used by everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds like it.
but those nets go up and down,
Yeah.
and they're pretty reliable.
Awesome. Stephen, before we begin, I forgot to acknowledge Assistant Marshal. Is that your right title? I can never keep track. You move around so much.
Yeah, Deputy Fire Chief right now.
Deputy Fire Chief Matthew Marietta is also with us today. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
And Matt's been spending a lot of time with me lately. Tonight's another night. So Matt's been, he's also our emergency manager in addition to our deputy chief. And he has been responsible for spearheading all our planning related to all the COVID-related activities we've had since the get-go. So all the rules we've promulgated internally and externally have been a result of his work. And we are being guided entirely by the CDC and state regulations. So that's what's guided our opening plan. Our closing plan happened very quickly, as it did happen in most places. But our opening plan is very deliberate, based on the what's coming out of the governor's office and what we're hearing from the CDC. And I'm happy to say that we were pretty much at the forefront of opening a lot of our operations. And I think it was because of the flexibility we have built in, and also because of all the relationships we have with our program providers that were just ready to go. And it didn't take staff having to gear up to be able to make that happen. And I think that partnership paid off significantly as we got things going. I'm going to ask Matt to talk a little bit about what is going into the decision process, and I'm going to try to muddle through what still has to open. I'm hoping that between the three of us we can get there. Matt?
So, as you all know, we shut down everything rather suddenly, following first the Fulton County, well, obviously the schools closing down, and then the Fulton County order, and then the governor's order. The opening back up process and just having managed the city's response, was beginning with fire and police. It has been very difficult. The data has been all over the place as people are trying to figure out what it is we're dealing with, how it's transmitted, who it's transmitted from, and to who's most vulnerable, who isn't, and it's still changing on a regular basis. So this has been a daily deep dive into public health statistics for me over the last couple of months, which is difficult at times. So basically, as we started, one of the things you do in emergency management is you plan, while the disaster is still going on, you start planning for how you're going to recover from that disaster, how you're going to start going the other direction and open things back up. And parks figured very prominently in that. It represents a small number of our city staff, unlike the fire department or community development or something like that, but it represents a significant portion of our community's footprint, and who we are as the city of Milton, and why people like to live here. And from the beginning, we involved, I was involved heavily with Jim and the parks staff on how we can do this, how we can do it safely, how we can try to do it, tea leaf read 3 months into the future and figure out what it is that the governor may say, and then give the green light or a yellow light to different parks programs in response to that. I have to say, all of the providers came with to several very lengthy meetings via Zoom or Microsoft Teams or one of those online platforms with a very good knowledge of their own discipline, their own sports regulations, and how their own sport governing committees were recommending that they respond to the COVID situation, which you mentioned football. I just saw that plan, and that's generally what we've received from tennis, from baseball. They've had some very thorough, because they're all passionate about their sports, some very thorough explanations on how they plan on threading that needle between being safe, but still starting to engage in life again rather than being cloistered up in the house. And I'll have to hand it to the providers, and then also to the park staff for working really diligently to make sure that we iron that out as much as possible, because we're still kind of trying to muddle through. Numerically speaking, I guess, statistically speaking, from a public health perspective. Carefully watching the numbers right now. If you've been watching the news recently, we're seeing a slight uptick in the state of Georgia, and there's a lot of questions as to whether that is due to new cases because of opening up or other situations where we weren't social distancing, or is it because we're testing more and we're finally eating into that percentage of citizens that were asymptomatic that weren't getting tested before, but now they finally are getting tested. And it's a day-by-day experience watching those numbers and trying to make the best decision possible. And I think we're at a point now where we're trying to find a way to live with this, because this may be something that we're hearing about for a while. And looking at all the different models, not just looking at the one with the hockey stick with the numbers going up, but realizing there's also disagreement out there in the public health community, the scientific community on this, and the models are changing on a regular basis, and then trying to make that something functional from not just a parks perspective, but also from a city perspective, from a fire department perspective. We've had a healthy public education program in the fire department that we've completely discontinued over the last couple of months as well. So, our community involvement has significantly been reduced because of that, and that's kind of our bread and butter in the fire department. So we are very actively and continually working with the program providers, and I am with the Parks and Rec staff to not only see where we're at and ensure that where we're at is aligning with best practices, but also understanding that there's life beyond the public health crisis, and thread that needle in between safety and opening back up again. And to this point, I don't have any complaints from the response that I've gotten from the providers or the staff. That's pretty much my perspective on the last several months as it applies to Parks and Rec. I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all have about why we made a decision that we made, or where we're at, or where we think we're going.
Questions for Matt? Guys?
No, I agree with what you were saying. The providers have done quite a bit of work. I was actually impressed at some of the things I saw before they sent them to you. I was looking at some of them going, wow, I didn't even think about that. And I saw some from the lacrosse side. I saw them. And but what's interesting is the parents are keeping you accountable. You can't tell someone they have to come to a practice or to a sport they signed up for if they are in fear that they're. So that's an interesting part of this. And yes. Some parents have decided not to send kids to games and tournaments that are going to happen up north and stuff like that. And you just have to know that this is a different time. But it is interesting. The parents are keeping you accountable as well. So I haven't seen anything.
And there's strong opinions on both sides of on both sides of this pandemic subject. The open up side and the not. We need to stay sheltering in place. So it can be difficult, but I feel like we're doing a good job threading that needle.
I'm not surprised that providers with a big program would be eager and anxious to try and figure out the solutions of, if you said yes, how do I get there?
Yeah.
And there's if you're representing a program of 200, 300, 500, 800 kids, you're trying to take care of their constituencies. I get that.
I was actually excited to see that one of the options was no parents.
Yeah.
We were going, oh my God, we're going to have games with no parents? This is going to be great.
Yeah, I can only
All the complaints are gone.
Yeah,
How did you do
game
today?
with no parents.
What because I've had a lot of questions about specifically football, but what is, as a city or just in general, is there certain triggers that would, kind of shut things down again for the city? Because they're asking me, well, football's a contact sport, and there's a lot more touching in that than there is in baseball, say. And it's they're asking me those types of questions, so I didn't know, are there certain things that people are looking for when they say, yeah, we can go forward with the sport or no?
So, I guess to a certain extent, we are watching that. We're watching the numbers closely. Where the hospitalizations have increased slightly. The fatality rate is significantly lower than what it was a couple months back. The testing is more of a variable number, but we watch that as well. Actually, I'm looking at 7 or 8 different sites to try to feng shui a happy median on that. So I guess the answer is it's kind of a day by day experience. I think the thing that resulted in the initial shutdown was 2 things. It was a lack of knowledge. 3 things: a lack of knowledge, a lack of treatment options, and a sudden rise. And I think we're in the process of dealing with 2 of those. Treatment options they've come up with something here recently that has a positive impact on people that are hospitalized, not just the remdesivir that we heard about a couple weeks ago, but something new. The more knowledge they gain about how it's spread and so on and how to mitigate against it, the better we are able to respond. And the reason I go through that litany is because a second wave may not look like the first wave. As far as how we respond as a government, how the public health community responds. Now, clearly, we're at the bottom end of the food chain on shutdown decisions. So if the governor turns around and comes out with a new regulation, or the governor loosens up on local jurisdictions and the county comes out with a new regulation, then we have to abide by what they tell us. We fall under the auspices of Fulton County Public Health and the state of Georgia Department of Public Health. So. Ultimately, they're the decision makers on this front. But my personal thought is we may have more tools in the tool shed if we're confronted with that, if these numbers continue to go up, and it may not be a sudden kind of a response. Maybe we have to change certain aspects of how we're socially distancing or how we're handling it, but we have more of an ability to make more nuanced decisions than we did when it first happened. I know that's not a very specific answer, but it's kind of hard to give a specific answer.
Yeah.
Reading a month and a half into the future, I've looked at two different models today. One of them showing the University of Washington model showing us having 10,000 fatalities by October, and another one that's saying we're only going to have 6,000, and we're tapering off. So it all depends on who's programmed the variables into the model. And then the people that are doing that programming are constantly adjusting those variables as well. So we're kind of playing it by ear, but our ear is very close to the ground. And we also understand these programs are rolling again. It's going to be very hard to dial it back in absent a hockey stick kind of an experience in the fall. So I hope that's a...
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a curiosity thing on my part, but also, like I said, I just have a lot of questions on it. And, I think that, that's as best as answer anybody can give right now is, the goal is to continue with it. And if something drastic were to happen, obviously, then it's out of, this committee's control and the city for the most part, because, like you said, the governor or the county or something. Okay.
Any other questions for Matt?
No, that would have been my only one. What do you see in the future? But you got it.
Matt, thanks for keeping on top of it.
Yes, thank
for
you.
all of us in Parks
appreciate
and for
it.
the city. We appreciate all your work and efforts and the things you've learned and the monitoring you bring to it. So I feel we're safe in your hands. So thanks for all that. Stephen, anything else on staff reports communication for us at the Parks Board tonight?
I have nothing else. Thomas, do you have anything?
I don't, and I'm not sure what direction we were going to go in with the report for the Wall of Champions, so I don't want to.
We're holding off.
We are going to
They
hold
deferred
off
that
on
until
that.
the next meeting.
We're going to hold that one off. Any other?
And that's it for me.
I don't know.
Business for this board tonight, Jason?
I just see looking at my screen, it's popping up that someone is raising their hand or has raised their hand. I don't know.
No. Do you want to make a public comment at this time? Sure, I'd be happy to take a public comment. Pardon me? Yeah. Mr. Johnson, you're recognized for a public comment for the Parks and Rec Board. Jeff, if you can hear us, you need to give us your name and street address, and we'll hear you. Stacy's working on you.
Mr. Johnson, if you will unmute yourself, you can make a comment. Doesn't appear that he's coming through.
Okay. I would encourage you, Jeff, if you've got a comment, to send it into the Parks Department email or the city address, or to myself, and we can get your question addressed. If you've got a question or comment, make sure it gets in the right place.
And all those addresses are listed on the website.
Yeah, on the city website. Thank you, Steve. Any other business for the Parks and Rec Board tonight, gentlemen?
No, that's it.
Like I said, I'm glad we're all here and back to meetings and Parks and Rec activity getting into a yellow zone as we're moving to green, avoiding a red. So our next meeting will be next month, July 16th at 6:30. And if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by Jason.
A second.
Second by Sean Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So be it. See you next month. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Turn off your screens.
Thanks, Stacy. You right? Thank you again.
Of course.
if you have any issues
I'm
tomorrow.
on my way to Rush Soccer.
I think we'll be smooth.
That's where they're
sailing.
doing practices now.
Apparently